while Scooby-Doo has been hands down the most used Hanna-Barbera character since Time Warner got their hands on HB, believe it or not, it wasn't always like that for the company. True, part of that is because Scooby wasn't created until 1969, and the Scooby format did influence a lot of shows in the 70s, but it's pretty clear Bill and Joe had a soft spot for some of their own creations, and it seems the one they loved the most was Yogi Bear. In fact, their very first theatrically released movie was one that featured Yogi, and 3 of their first 5 full-length TV movies also featured Yogi. And that includes the first of the Superstars 10 movies, Yogi's Great Escape. In this film, it's springtime, and Yogi finds himself with 2 major problems. The first in the form of 3 bear cubs abandoned outside his cave that he has to take in and care for. But the bigger problem is that Jellystone Park is being closed down, meaning the bears are going to be shipped off to the zoo. Naturally, this doesn't sit well with Yogi, so he has to prove he's smarter than the average bear in escaping Ranger Smith's attempts to round all the bears up. They build their own car out of junk they found in the river and proceed to lead the Ranger on a countrywide chase. So it looks like the movie is trying for the feel of an old Bob Hope road trip movie, complete with guest appearances from other members of the Hanna gang. In one scene, the bears are all arrested by Quick Draw McGraw, who mistakes Yogi and Boo Boo for 2 look-alike bandits. Then in the next scene, they find an old haunted steamboat where Wally Gator is residing, and then they make it to a carnival where Snagglepuss is performing. And yeah, it is poetic that all of these characters appear in the movie, since all of them, Yogi included, were voiced by Daws Butler. You know, when people talk online about the greatest voice actors, they bring up the likes of Jim Cummings, Frank Welker, Mel Blanc, but Daws Butler seems to have been pretty forgotten. He voiced a ton of Hanna-Barbera characters in his time, and no one seems to ever really talk about him. Another unfortunate burial in animation history for this studio. The scenes where Yogi meets up with all of his old friends are pretty fun and exciting. Unfortunately, it's not until the second half of the movie that most of those scenes kick into gear. The first half kind of drags a bit, as it's all about Yogi just trying to get out of Jellystone Park. Another thing that kind of sets back the movie for me is that Ranger Smith is kind of a jerk. Yeah, Yogi has always been a pain in his side throughout their entire lives together, but you'd think he'd just show a little more understanding that Yogi is being forced to go somewhere he clearly doesn't want to. Heck, the whole issue of the bears having to be sent to a zoo is maybe the biggest question mark of them all. It wouldn't be possible to find another national park for them to live in, one that probably would have had more space to keep them in than in a zoo. That's where I think the movie really missed out on strengthening its centralized conflict. The Ranger hires this mountain man, hunting man, and his dog to try to help him track down Yogi. And sometimes you get the feeling the movie's gonna end with the hunter being revealed to want to poach Yogi for his own means. But not only does it not turn out that way, when we get to the final climactic scene, the hunter is pretty much gone. And even that climax doesn't have that much of a resolution. It's almost a deus ex machina how the plot is finally resolved. Yeah, it may partially be connected to the fact that Yogi had become a big celebrity driving all across the country, mostly highlighted by these gangs of kids keeping in touch with one another and always helping Yogi escape from the Ranger and his other captors. But I don't know, I just had a feeling there should have been a little bit more to how the main problem of the movie was ultimately solved. Don't get me wrong, this is definitely a Yogi Bear movie. It's exactly the type of character getting into exactly the type of adventures we would expect him to be, causing trouble, but ultimately having a good heart in the end. It's just that sometimes it feels like there isn't a true movie structure in this thing. Almost like this was meant to be some type of mini-series where they just put all of the plots together to make a full-length feature film. It's not terrible to be sure, but I definitely can't call it the absolute best of the Hanna-Barbera Superstars 10 lineup. It has its good points, and it's definitely worth checking out, but trust me, we are definitely gonna see some more exciting and almost insane stories as we continue on with these movies.